I want to be joined here by Steve Daines, Montana Senator, and most importantly, the chairman of the Republican Senatorial Campaign Committee, responsible for protecting Republican incumbents and creating more Republican incumbents. Great to see you, Senator. Thanks for the time.
Good to be here.
Talk to me about where you see the momentum for this party, for this ticket after day one of the convention.
Well, I'll tell you, you can sense the enthusiasm, the excitement, the unity as this party is really coming together behind President Trump and now as Vice President nominee JD Vance. But I tell you, I think the emotion here coming off of the assassination attempt on Saturday, it can't be overstated. You know, there was that incredible moment Saturday where, you know, assassin's bullet was a quarter-inch off of either making this a memorial service or a national convention. I mean, it was a quarter-inch separated, one of two outcomes here, and here we are, thankful for God's protection of President Trump and the fact that we can be here, nominate him as our presidential nominee, and win in November.
Good news for former President Trump, tragic news for one victim and two others who were wounded and are still holding on to life.
Look, it was a fire chief, lost his life, an innocent, somebody going to a political rally,
right.
And nobody would have thought you go home dead. And then you had the two other rally goers there that are still wounded and healing up.
What effect do you think that will have on political campaigning for the rest of this cycle, Senator Daines?
Well, clearly it changes the whole security posture.
And not just for the former president and President Biden, but for senatorial candidates.
Yeah, well, I mean,
are you having conversations about that?
Well, I think there'll be a heightened security presence at events and so forth. But look, democracy is going to continue to move forward. We are proud of the fact we have a nation here. We have access to our elected officials. And, we had, a deranged individual in Pennsylvania that tried to take out the President of the United States. We're going to move forward here 3.5 months. So we want to make sure the voters expect to interact with their candidates, interact with elected leaders.
Senator Daines, when you talk about unity, do you mean intra-party Republican unity, or do you mean something that is an appealing message outside of the Republican Party?
Yeah, well, I think step one is always to unify a party, and we're unified. I can't say that was true a year ago, but now the party is coming. We've got Nikki Haley speaking. There's an example of bringing unity together, Ron DeSantis. And so the party is unified. I think President Trump has an opportunity on Thursday night now to expand that unity and think about unifying the nation. The country is yearning for a strong leader and one that will bring a unifying kind of message. And what I've heard from President Trump is he tore up his speech he planned. We're going to have a different speech on Thursday night.
On our air last night on CBS special coverage of this event, Michael Whatley, the party chairman, Glenn Youngkin, the governor of Virginia, both told us that they were told by President Trump to rewrite your speeches. Will Senate candidates who are appealing for voters tonight have rewritten speeches tonight?
Well, look, I think there's always a contrast that needs to be painted clearly around the positions. Let's keep it focused on policy, not on personality. And I think that's what our Senate candidates will be talking about, because the policy gap here is large in terms of visions for this country. The candidates have every right to paint that contrast, but let's do it in a way here that's focused on policy, not personality.
Former President Trump in this very campaign has described Democrats as communists, Marxists, fascists, who are criminals who steal elections and try to destroy the country. Is that the kind of rhetoric you see receding after this moment in Saturday in Pennsylvania?
Well, the rhetoric cuts both ways on that in terms of both parties, but I hope there will be a temperature decrease. The country is looking for that. And leaders have a task here of setting the tone, setting the temperature. As we say, we should be more thermostats than thermometers. We can take the temperature down.
Talk to me about JD Vance and very important Senate campaigns in Milwaukee, Wisconsin here. Obviously, Milwaukee's in Wisconsin, and Michigan, and Pennsylvania.
So, JD Vance is somebody I got to campaign for back in 22. Got to know him very well as a colleague. JD Vance brings a couple of things. Number one, my father's a Marine, but he said JD Vance will be the first U.S. Marine to serve as vice president. Our veterans will certainly rally behind that. But JD Vance has a great American dream story. Really growing up on the other side of the railroad tracks. Of course, his story that's been a New York Times bestseller, coming from poverty, divorced parents as a toddler, raised by his mom's third husband, goes to Ohio State University, goes to the Marine Corps, and he'll tell you that straightened him out. And then on to Yale. Very, very bright. But here's, I think, the appeal that JD has. He appeals to what we call lunch bucket Democrats. So Democrats that I grew up with in Montana. My grandpa Daines was a diehard lunch bucket kind of Democrat. JD Vance would have an appeal to somebody like that. They feel like they're left behind by the Democrats' agenda.
Bigger than President Trump or complementary to President
think it
Trump?
complements, but I think his unique story is something that very few members of Congress have. And I'll tell you,
certainly President Trump doesn't have.
He doesn't. So Trump has the appeal, but I think
doesn't have the story.
JD Vance has the story. He can uniquely relate to those voters. But look what it does in Ohio. I got to believe Sherrod Brown was not happy to hear that JD Vance is going to be the vice president, because JD Vance knows Ohio. That's going to put, certainly give a spring in the step there, Bernie Moreno, our candidate in Ohio. But look at places like Pennsylvania, like Michigan, like Wisconsin. Again, lunch bucket Democrats looking for a home. JD Vance provides that kind of relatable story.
Steve Daines, Senator from Montana, Chairman of the Republican Senatorial Committee. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Glad to join you.